This video demonstrates how to build an asset management application within Baserow. First of all, let's have a look at our use case. What do we expect from such a system? Well, first of all, I want to have a centralized repository for all my assets, which means that I want to see at any time who is the current user and who used the asset in the past. Also, I want to be able to detect if a replacement is required. I want to perform issue management, which means reporting an issue, follow up on the issue, and completing the issue. I want to do the same for maintenance management. I want to schedule them, and I want to do the follow-up. Let's have a look at our final solution. First of all, I'm going to authenticate with Bran, and Bran is just a regular user. Bran has some assets, for example, this MacBook Pro. He can check the details of the asset. And because Bran is also a department manager, he can request a replacement where he can suggest a new asset to replace his current MacBook. Also, Bran is able to report a new issue. For example, on the date of today, his MacBook is crashing a lot. The issue is created in the database, and now the issue can be followed up by an asset manager. So let's log out and let's authenticate with Donald. And Donald is an asset manager. And you can see in the menu that Donald has, as an asset manager, access to the issues and maintenances. So the issue that was created by Bran is available here. It can be opened by the asset manager, and the asset manager can say, okay, this has a low priority, it's in progress, and I'm going to assign it to Lane. The issue is updated, and we have also an issue here that is reported but not assigned. So let's set it medium, also assign it to Lane, and set it in progress. That's the job that Donald can do. Donald also has access to all the assets, to assets that are not assigned, assets with active issues that are in maintenance, and so on. He also can search, for example, show me everything that has to do with a phone. Well, for all the categories, all assets and maintenance, I only show assets that are related to the category phone or that have the word phone in them. That's a job that can be completed by the asset manager. Let's log out again, and the assets were assigned to Lane. Lane is a technician. He also has access to the issues and maintenances, and he can see the 2 issues assigned to him. Opening the issues, instead of in progress, he can say, okay, I resolved the issue immediately today with a description, it's solved. Updating the issue is being removed here, and Lane can go to the next issue. So for maintenances, it's actually the same. This is all the scheduled maintenances. Someone can open a maintenance. He can say, okay, I performed it. It had a certain cost of, for example, 100 euros. And I have replaced something as a description, completing the maintenance with setting a date. Maintenance is now completed, and we can continue to the next maintenance. So, how can we build such a solution? Well, actually, it takes 2 steps, just like with any solution. First step is gathering the required functionalities. We're going to group them in pages and determine the links between the pages. And the second step, of course, is creating the application itself. Let's have a look at the first step. So, we have 3 categories. We have data that we want to show for multiple records. For example, all the assets, all the issues, all the maintenances, and so on. We also have data that request a single record, the details of a single asset, details of a single issue. And we have the manipulation actions, adding, updating, or deleting records. So once we have identified everything we want to do, we can group them into pages. And my advice is to have maximum 5 functionalities or 5 data sets a page. We have one exception here, the all assets. For the asset manager, it contains 6 data sets, but okay, it's just one above 5, but it's acceptable. So we have a home page, department assets, all assets, issues and maintenances. These pages determine on your role. So department managers see the department assets, asset managers see all assets, other users only their own assets. And then we establish links between them. So from these pages, you can go to asset details. Asset details can add an issue, add maintenance, or request a replacement, and can go directly to the details. And once we have established the hyperlinks, then we check the parameters. What is needed to go to a certain page? Well, for my home, department assets, and all assets, I want to have a search parameter, which is optional. For my asset details, it will always require an asset ID. To add maintenance issue or replacement, I always have an asset ID because I want to know about which asset I need to create an issue, maintenance, or replacement. And also here I have optionally a new asset that I want to suggest. Let's start with creating an application from a template, and I will use an application theme so that I already have some styling. It comes with a database, but I'm going to delete this one. I will rename the application to my asset manager, for example, and I will also remove the default examples page. Let's add a new page, home, and as mentioned in the introduction, I will need a parameter search for this. I'm going to modify the header a little bit. So what I have here is a menu. So the header can be the normal width. And above the menu, I will add an image so that I have a header image overall in my application. Let's select the header. And this will be the image for my entire application. Let's create some other pages. So I have my home page. I will also create a page for all assets. Again, it will have the search parameter. I will have a page for department assets. That again will have my search parameter. And I will have a page for issues and maintenances. And this one doesn't require any parameter because I haven't implemented the search on this one. Finally, I want to have my page for the asset details, and this will not have an optional query string parameter, but it will have an obligated path parameter, which means that the page only can be visited if the parameter is set. So I'm going to set an asset ID. And normally I use this notation, name of my table, followed by underscore ID. If I only use ID and the application gets quite big, then it's not clear to which ID I'm referring. So I'm using asset underscore ID. I have created the pages, so time to configure my header. I have a menu over here. Let's align it to the left. And the first page contains some sub-pages. I don't want this, so let's remove it. So my second page, let's call this My Assets, and it will navigate to my home page. I'm going to add a separator so that I have a vertical line between them. Page 3 will be the department assets, and I will refer to my departments page. Again, let's create a separator after it. So let's move this one. Then I will have a new link being the all assets page. And I refer to that page again with a separator after it. And my final page will be the issues and maintenances. That will refer to the corresponding pages. So issues and maintenances. Navigate to this page. And now this contact us button, I'm going to replace it with the logout button. In the events tab, I can add an event to logout, and instead of the default show notification, I'm going to add the logout action. So if a user clicks the button, he gets logged out. But I want this button to be entirely on the right side, so I'm going to add a spacer here. And if I move the spacer in front of this logout button, it moves the logout button to the right, all the other menus items to the left. So I have done this in the asset details page, but because this is in the multi-page header, well, it applies to all the pages. So if I run my application now, I can have a nice navigation. Finally, I'm going to remove the footer because I don't want to have a footer on every page. And here we are ready to set up the authentication. The first step in the authentication process is creating a user source. And we will use the employees table here as the user source. The employees table has a field with the email address. It has a field with the user role that the user will take in the application. And as a hidden field, I have a password field where I have set a password for each user. And I also have a name field over here. So let's go to the application. Let's go to the settings, pick users, and add a new user source. It will be based on a Baserow table, my local database, and I'm going to call this employees. That's a name I pick myself. Creating the user source, so the name is employees, and I'm going to pick my asset management database, the employees table. I'm selecting the email field as the email address. This is the email that the user will use to authenticate. A name field that will assign a name to a user. And then the role, this is the user role the user will take. So I'm selecting this field. I can authenticate a user using single sign-on or OpenID, but I will pick the password field from my own tables. Passwords are stored encrypted into Baserow. You are free to use them, but you can also implement single sign-on if you want. Now that I have set up my user source, I'm going to add a new page here. I'm going to call this page login, and it will have a single element being a login form element. And the user source is the user source I just created. So using this form, you can style it a little bit, making it a bit smaller. You can offer a background color to it to make it stand out and so on. Using this form will authenticate the user to your application. I need to set a couple of things. First of all, in my application settings, in general, I will say that my new created page, login, is the login page for the application, which means if I want to visit a page that requires authentication and my user is not logged in yet, he will be redirected automatically to that login page. So now I have set this, I can start setting visibility to my application. So for my home page, well, actually it's pretty simple. Visibility, everyone needs to be logged in. To see all assets, you not only need to be logged in, but I want you to have a certain role. You either are an asset manager or a support and maintenance technician. For the department assets, well, to have access to this page, I want you to be a department manager. Issues and maintenances, well, again, you either are an asset manager or a technician. So let's select asset manager, support and maintenance. And for asset details, I just want you to be logged in. So everyone can see the asset details. We can configure it on element level if required. So I have set up the authentication for all my pages. Let's do the same for my menu because everyone will see all the menu items. That's not really my desired behavior. So I'm going to duplicate it and say, okay, the department assets, that's not necessary. Also, I don't want to have a double separator. And this menu bar, it will be visible for logged in users that have either the asset manager or support and maintenance role. Those will see the items. I'm going to duplicate it again. And my assets, department assets are available, but I'm going to remove the all assets and the issues and maintenance element. And this will be visible for my department manager role. Okay. And I'm going to take a final copy here, and only my assets will be available for my other users. So if you're logged in and you have the role of other, then this is what you will be seeing. And the top one, I can remove it because no user will see everything at all time. So you can see it's grayed out because, well, I'm not logged in. Let's simulate. So Bran is a department manager. This is what Bran will be seeing. Donald is a asset manager. So this is what Donald will be seeing. Lane was the technician. He will see the same. And I also have Lena. Lena has others. This is what she will be seeing. So we have configured a user source and we have set access to certain pages based on the role of the user. And also we have set the visibility of the menu bar based on the role of the users. Let's start now with building our home page. So I select my home page, and first thing, or let's pick the all assets page, a little bit more fun. I select my page, and the first thing I need to do here is creating a data source. And in my data source, I want to have multiple records, and I want to have all assets, but really all assets. So from my asset management database, I pick my assets table, and I pick my view all assets. Okay, going to save this. And yeah, let me add a header element here, an H2 element to show all assets. And I'm going to create a table element and assign my data source to that table element. So a table and repeat element can both show a collection of data. I have picked the table now, and I see all my assets over here. I have all the fields over here, so I can configure it a little bit. I want to have my serial number in front. I don't want it to be a plain text. I want it to be a hyperlink. It can show my serial number, but it must link to my asset details and pass the ID of my record, not the ID field, but the ID of my record to that page. Also, I want to have that small triangle in front. So if I have a look at my database again, in my assets table, I have a field active issue, and it shows a small triangle if there's an active issue with an asset. And I want to reflect this also in my all assets page. So for my serial number, what I'm going to do, next to the serial number or in front of the serial number, I want to see this active issue icon. If an asset has an active issue, it will show the icon. Let's remove a couple of things. So for example, I don't want to see the issues, assignments, and so on. That's all redundant information here. I don't want to show all the fields of my table. But for my status field, instead of text, I want to show the tag. So let's select the value of my status here to show the status itself. And as the color, I want to select the color of my status so that it matches the colors in my database. Now I have configured my home page. I want to make it searchable, and I can do this here with the user actions. I can determine on which fields you can either filter, sort, and search. So you see the icons coming here. And you can use the search, filter, and sort just like you would in a Baserow database. But I can also set up my own search. Let's add a form here at the top. And inside my form, I want to have a data element, data input element, and I'm going to call this search. Let's narrow my form a little bit. So with the style, let's make it small. And what will happen if I submit the form? Well, I will reload the page and fill in this as the parameter of the page. So my event is that I will open a page. It will be the all assets page again, and I will pass my parameter to open the page. And the value here will be equal to my parameter. Okay, so now I have configured this form. Let's also adjust the data source that I don't want to have all the assets, but I want to have all the assets that matches my search parameter. So let's save this. And if I test over here, for example, phone, it will filter my data source so that I only have items that contain phone somewhere. If I want to search for laptop, it will also filter my data source. Okay, back to the event. I have set the parameter here. That's of course not correct. I need to pass the data from my form. And then if I run the application, it will also work to filter my form. Okay, so yeah, we have set up a main page together with a search functionality. Let's fast forward the application to build the details page. I have my asset details page here, and I already added some text elements. So for internal ID, category, and a text field that will hold the value for each asset. So let's fill in this details page. First of all, I'm going to create a data source. And this time I will select a single record, being my asset details. It will come from my assets table. View is not relevant here. And I'm going to set the row ID, and the row ID will be the asset ID that I pass to this page. So let's save this one. And I want to create a second data source. Let's do it immediately, where I have multiple records. And those will be all the issues for an asset. So I call this asset issues. It comes from my asset management database, but it comes from the issues table. And the filter will be that the asset that the issue is about has my asset ID. So now that I created those two data sources, I can start visualizing them. So I already have a header element here where I can show my asset details, and I can show the name. And now it shows that it's empty. It's because in my database, I don't have an asset with ID 1. So let's check my assets table, and I see that I have one with ID number 3. So let's go back to my asset management application here, the fast forwarded version. So I have one with ID number 3. I input this ID, and then I see the name. If I want to see additional information, for example, I also want to see the internal ID followed by a dash and the serial number. Well, that's perfectly possible. And I can start filling in all the information here. For example, the internal ID I want to show my category. So that's a single select. I pick the value over here. I want to show the purchase price. And I want to set the currency in front of it. So I can add multiple things into a single text field. So yeah, I can add all the information over here. The same for my issues. So I have multiple issues. Let's create a table element. I assign my data source, the asset issues to it, and it shows the issues for each item. And again, I can add a field and say, okay, this is an issue. It will be a hyperlink. The text will be the ID of my issue. And you can navigate to my issue details, passing the ID. And I'm going to move this so that it's in front of my table. So let's move this all the way up. And now I have a clickable thing. I can continue to configure it. Okay, next on my details page, I'm going to add a hyperlink. And I'm going to start it like a button, but it's still a hyperlink. Move it to the left. And I will use this to add a new issue. And this will navigate to my add issue page, passing the ID of my asset detail. So my add issue page, this is a page where I will create a form. And in that form, I'm going to create a new record in my issues table. But first of all, I need to have all the details of my issue. So I'm going here, create a new data source. Again, I want to have a single record being the asset details. Selecting from an assets table, passing the ID. And again, I'm going to adjust this to 3 so that I have some information. And I'm also going to pick a user here. So I'm going to create an issue 4, well, from asset details, asset with this name between parentheses, the internal ID dash the serial number. Then I'm going to create a form element. And inside a form, you can have actually any element, not only the form element. So I'm going to create a text field where I say, okay, name, again, the name of my asset so that I know about which asset we are talking. And also another text where I say user, and I'm going to show the name of the authenticated user. So in this case, Ali. If I select Bran, it will be Bran. So always the name of the selected user. And then I can start with my input field. So actually for an issue, I need 2 things. I need a date and a description of the issue together with the reporter and the asset, but I already have that information. So I need 2 input fields. First of all, the date picker field that will offer my date reported. And yeah, I will select the value. It's a required field. And the next one is my date input. That will be a multi-line text field of 3 lines, which is also required. And this describes the problem or describe the issue. When I submit, so if I click add new issue, I'm going to add an action, actually 2 actions here. The first action is I want to create a new row, and the new row will be created in my issues table because I'm creating a new issue. So the asset, well, I have the asset ID here, or I have it here. Reported by, well, my authenticated user. Reported date, I have this information from the form. Issue description, I have this from the form. Priority will not be set yet, same as the status. However, I will set the default status to reported. I'm not going to assign it. Yeah, definitely will not be resolved, and there will be no description to resolve it. So this will add a record, and now I will open a page, being the issue details page, and I will show the issue itself, so the ID of the issue. Okay, let's publish the page to have a test here. So I'm going to open it, and let's say I'm authenticating with Bran. Okay, I'm going to the details. I want to report a new issue. I'm going to set a date over here. This is a new issue. I'm adding the issue, and I go to the issue details page. So let's double check in the database here, my issues table, and I can see the new issue that has been created. So we successfully have added the issue. Next step is building the page where a manager is able to resolve the issue. So on my issue details page, I already had a container here for my form, but check the visibility. The form is only visible for asset managers and support and maintenance managers because regular end users don't want to mess with the status of an issue. They only can see the issue. So let's build the form, and what I need to do is setting the priority and the status of an issue. So let's select first of all a choice element, and this choice element will contain the priority. Okay. I already added a data source here, get issue, so that I have the active issue with the ID that was passed. And I'm going to fill in the get issue priority ID over here, but I need to set some options. And I'm going to do this here with the option type is formulas. Option name, I can see here. So what I have here is information about my user, parameters that have been passed, data sources that has been created, and finally my available options. And within my data source get issue, I have two available options, priority and status. So the name will be the value attribute of my priority, and the values will be the ID of my priority. And I know this sounds maybe a little bit weird, but the names is what the user will see. So the value of my single select field, while the option values are the unique IDs. So this will be the ID field. Okay, let's check for an issue number 3, for example, and I see priority high being filled in. So we're gonna take the exact same steps for the status. My label is status. The value will come from the data source, status ID. It's a required field. So let's also make this one required. And I'm going to fill in the values through a formula. The names, it will be for all the status, their value, and the values will be for all statuses, their IDs. And then I can see that it's set to in progress. Next is showing who it is assigned to. And I already have a data source here, technical staff. It's a shared one between pages. And it shows me all the technical staff from my employees table. So let's add a record selector here. And I'm going to select my data source. So it's because it's not a single select field, it's really an actual data source. And it offers me some more opportunities. So assigned to, the value will be my assigned to, the first one, ID. And I said I have some more options. It's because my user actions here, I can enable search on the name field. So if I have a long list of employees, I will have a magnifier where I can search them. So furthermore, what I need to add is a date picker to say resolved date. And I will not require this because first time the manager, the asset manager will set priority status and assign to it. It will not be resolved yet. And the last one will be my data input with a reason, so description. And this is also not required, but make it a multi-line. So now to update my issue, what I need to do is actually pretty simple. I'm going to update a record and it will be my issue. The record I will be updating, well, it will be the issue ID. So this one. The asset will not be changed. Also reported by reported date will not be changed. Issue description will not be changed, but I will set a priority. I will set a status. I will set the one who is assigned to, my resolve date, and my description. So all this information actually comes from my form. And after that, I will forward, open the page to my general issues and maintenance page. Okay, let's publish my application to check it. And now I'm going to refresh the page. I have my issue details and I don't see anything. It's because I'm still authenticated as Bran and Bran has no rights to see this form. So I'm going to authenticate as Lane, because Lane or Donald, they both have access right to that form. Yeah, let's check issues and maintenances. This is the one we created, the new issue. Let's open the issue, and here I have my form. So I can set a priority to high, and it's in progress, and I'm going to assign it to lane. Update my issue. Well, the issue has been updated. So status, priority, and assigned is updated. And I can close the issue saying it's not in progress, it's resolved. And let's resolve it today with the message fixed. Updating the issue, and now the issue is resolved. It's no longer an active issue. Okay, this summarizes our application. So we have covered the basics. There's a lot more in this application. You can download this and install it as a template. But the steps to schedule the maintenance and to make the replacements are really similar to fixing this issue.